Hello, so this is a short recording about how to get started in Adobe Audition and prepare your audio for editing and for mixing and all the other things you might want to do with it. So when you open up Adobe Audition initially, it'll look something like this. It won't have audio already in there like I have, but it will look something like this. And what we're looking at the moment is the waveform area. There are two different areas in Adobe Audition, and therefore they are for different stages in the audio production. So the waveform is where we do our fine editing. It's where we tidy up our audio, where we get rid of the ums and the ers, where we find the clips that we want to use in our bulletin or in our package, and where we clean those up. So our fine editing is done in the waveform, and you can see that up here in the top left hand corner. But once we've got all our clips prepared, then we will move to the multi-track area. And that looks very different. As you can see, there are, well, you can see 5, but there are more tracks down there. And this is where we can pull across our audio and we can start to assemble it, move it around a little bit, bring in other audio like that. And we can order them and we can overlap them if we need to, or whatever we want to do. So this is the multi-track area, which is for assembling and mixing our audio. But for this tutorial, we're going to be working in the waveform area. So the first thing we want to do is to bring in our new piece of audio. Perhaps we've just been outside recording an interview or whatever, and we've got it onto the computer and we want to bring it into Adobe Audition to prepare it. So to bring in new audio, we go to this open file icon over here, click on it, and we can browse to the area, the audio that we want. Just click on open and it'll take a second or two, and there we are, there's the audio. You could also of course go to file and open that way. There are always multiple ways of doing everything in Adobe Audition. So you have your audio up. Straight away I can see that it's recorded at a reasonably good level. It's not, there are none of those telltale distortion signs where it's just flattened on the top of the waveform. But even so, when we're mixing a package, because we're using audio that's been recorded perhaps on different devices and has been brought in from different places, then it might all be at quite different levels, which makes it more difficult when we're assembling. It'll all sound like the levels going up and down, and that will be very distracting and ugly. So what we want to do is to normalise all our audio so that when we come to put it together, it matches as much as possible before we start. So I would do that with every single piece of audio I bring in to waveform. Before I start editing on it, I would normalise it. And to do that, you just click somewhere on the waveform, highlight the whole area. I do that on my Mac, Command A. I've highlighted it, goes white. Then I go to Favourites on Adobe Audition in the toolbar up there, and I'm looking for normalise to -0.1. I click on that, and you might have not been able to see very much difference, but it did ever so slightly raise the level of that audio consistently right the way across. So it doesn't change the voice to background noise ratio or anything like that. It just lifts everything up a few notches on the level. And if you do that with all your pieces of audio, all recorded on different devices and different times, it will make sure that to a large extent they all match. And then what we do, we just need to save. So the usual sort of thing, Command S on a Mac to save. If I want to save somewhere new, I go to Save As, and I can browse to whichever folder I want and save there. Really important when you're working on Adobe Audition to make sure that you're organised and you keep all your files for each project, each package you're working on in the same folder, so that Adobe, the system itself, can find them each time you open it up. It can't find files scattered on different folders across your system. So be organised, give your files sensible names that you can find, and then put them in the same folder for each package that you're doing. Okay, and so that's the basic way we get started with our audio. We're now in a position to start editing it, and I'll show you more about that in the next tutorial.